Hello, Erica here, and I'm back with more Vlogmas. Sorry I missed a few days. I'm trying to get caught up so that I do have all of the videos up by Christmas, so you may see like 4 go up over the course of the next couple of days so that I can get caught up. I am here today with a video that I promised to do in November, which is just a list of kind of my favorite nonfiction books. I didn't get around to it in November. I wanted to do it then, obviously, because it was Nonfiction November, but I thought it was still worth doing, so here I am. It should be mentioned that when I do read a bit of nonfiction, not a ton, but I definitely gravitate towards kind of like essays and memoirs and things of that nature. I don't read a lot of like science and history nonfiction, so you'll kind of see that reflected here. The first book I want to talk about is The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. I found this book through Jen Campbell's channel, and she really adores this book. Amanda Palmer is a musician, and she's really into crowdfunding. She also happens to be the wife of Neil Gaiman, and she wrote this book, which is kind of part memoir, and it's kind of like, it's self-helpy, but not really. The subtitle is, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Let People Help. So the book kind of starts off with Amanda Palmer working as a street performer. She was one of those kind of living statues, and she wore a wedding dress, and she kind of goes into how when you ask people for what you really want, and when you ask for help, be it from the people in your life or from strangers, it's really rewarding, and you shouldn't judge yourself for needing to ask people for things, and you should accept the help that is given graciously and not fret about it. So I highly recommend this book. It's a really cool book. Amanda Palmer is really fascinating, and it's just a lovely little read, especially if you're like feeling down about the world. This is a good one to turn to. Next, I do actually have 2 history books. The first one is ginormous, and this is The Warmth of Other Suns, The Epic Story of America's Great Migration by Isabel Wilkerson. This won the National Books Critics Circle Award for Nonfiction, and it is about America's Great Migration, which is a period of time in American history where a lot of blacks were moving out of the South and into more urban and more northern areas. So I forget what the actual statistic is, but it is a period in history that took place roughly from 1915 to 1970, and it's really wonderful. It follows, I think, 4 different narratives, and Isabel Wilkerson actually interviewed these people and kind of learned about their family history and what drew them out of the South and to the North. And there are a lot of people in the book who fall on very hard times, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful look at a period in history that's often glossed over or not spoken about really at all. I hadn't known much about the Great Migration before I went into this book. I am now very well educated on it. I did actually listen to the audiobook version of this, and it was really, really wonderfully well done. So I can highly recommend that, and it'll help a little bit with the chunkiness of it. This book is about 600 pages, so that's a pretty hefty history tome there. The next history book I have is The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson, and the subtitle for this book is Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed America. This book takes place in Chicago at the end of the 19th century, and it's simultaneously the story of the men who built the World Fair in Chicago that year, and running parallel with that is the story of the serial killer H.H. Holmes, who resided in Chicago at that time and kind of had like this creepy murder-down, and he would lure women into it and kill them. It's really, really wonderful. This is amazing for people like me who have a hard time getting through history books, because it is told like a novel. You get really wrapped up in it, and I mean, Erik Larson even had to put a kind of note at the beginning that's like, this is not a novel, this is nonfiction. Erik Larson does a really great job. I've read a couple of his books now with kind of presenting really interesting times in history and having them read like fiction, which is really awesome. But you have to remind yourself this isn't fiction at some points. So this was really fascinating, full of like little tidbits that you might not have known about people, and especially about the Chicago's World Fair. Plus, it's creepy with the serial killer, so it's kind of got a little bit for everything, and I would really highly recommend it. Next, I have a book of essays. This is the Story of a Happy Marriage by Ann Patchett. Now, I should say I have not read any of Ann Patchett's fiction, so don't feel like you have to have read her fiction before you can read this collection of essays by her. This is really just a collection of essays that Ann Patchett has written over an extended period of time about her life and about her passions in life. So there are a few essays about writing and what that means to her and how she kind of embraces her craft. There are essays about her dogs and about her marriage and friendship, and it's just a really lovely, lovely collection of essays. So I would definitely recommend picking this up. And lastly, I have one of my favorite books of all time, which I cannot stop talking about, and I shove this book at like almost everyone I've ever met, and that is Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar by Cheryl Strayed. So Cheryl Strayed is most famously known as the author of Wild, but this is a collection of advice columns that she wrote as she was writing as Sugar. It's absolutely incredible, and I thought this book was going to be so cheesy, and this book, I'm not kidding you, it changed my life. So I literally, like, readers and non-readers alike, I like give this to people all the time. I'm like, here, please have this book and read it. It's going to change your life. So it's definitely the one that I most recommend to people, like the single book, fiction or nonfiction, that I most recommend to everyone, and I think everyone should read it, and it's going to break your heart, and it's going to make you laugh, and it's going to give you kind of a fresh perspective on your life and the lives of other people around you and what other people might be going through, and it's just so good. Please read it. It's amazing. So those are 5 of my favorite nonfiction books. If you have any recommendations for me of nonfiction that you think I should read, I'm always on the lookout. I have kind of a hard time figuring out what to read as far as nonfiction goes. And if you've read any of these or have any questions about any of them and would like to discuss them in the comments, we can do that. Thank you all so much for watching, and happy Vlogmas. Bye!